The story that led to protests.
This is absolutely unthinkable.
Press conferences and international headlines started with this video. We've blurred it because it shows a group of kids. One is drinking from a cup the kids say has urine in it. The mom of the boy drinking was outraged.
This is not a prank.
Okay, so we got a very interesting story. We're coming through.
Yeah,
we got a very interesting story today about. Well, we got a couple of very interesting stories. So we got one in which BLM is upset because a Black mom's child was hazed, and
that it involves something that she found to be detestable, which, I mean, personally, me and my friends were doing worse stuff to each other, but that's neither here nor there. That it seems to be a case of, you know what, you might want to understand the court system before you start trying to sue people.
Yeah. Well, hold on, because I had Jim and I do a quick workup. So here is the intro. You guys remember there's an international headline from about 5 years ago, a sleepover here in Piano, Texas, involving a urine cup and a minor. There was it's a story. So this was a case in where the teenager was accused of bullying another teenager, and that the teenager who was bullied just got a $3.2 million judgment against the perpetrator's mother and her lawyer. Yeah. So that's what happened. So we're going to see it. I think it's for defamation. So the verdict awarded $3.2 million. Ooh. Jury found that the mom and lawyer were liable for intentional infliction of emotional distress by publicizing information. And Van claims that it wasn't racism, but stupidity. So the bully's defense was that they weren't doing it because of race.
Yeah, it was just, hey, we're all friends, we all mess with each other sort of thing. But the mom said, no, because one of the boys involved, I guess the main perpetrator, was a white boy, and then one of the other kids, participant, the victim of drinking it, was Black, then it gets sort of framed that way. So, but the issue isn't, no one's contesting, okay, the fact that it happened. No, that's not in contention here. The issue, however, is if you have ongoing litigation. Let me ask the lawyer in the room. I passed the bar myself, as a matter of fact. I passed quite a few on the way here. But let me ask the actual lawyer, if you have ongoing litigation, okay, is it wise to talk about it publicly or to release public information about you or any of the plaintiffs or defendants or anything like that?
Well, generally not in this particular situation, but before we jump into that, let's build up to it. Because right now I'm assuming the audience doesn't know like really any facts.
They haven't heard this, man. This is hot news. Come on. Okay.
Well, I thought it was until, but I didn't hear about it till yesterday.
Oh man.
Yeah, I on the streets. Here it is. Let me play this one. Right? Is this it? Yes.
This is beyond bullying. You are evil.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They are evil.
Now the courts have weighed in on what happened after this sleepover in Plano 5 years ago. The family of one of the kids accused of bullying sued the mom and her lawyer. A Collin County jury agreed the mom and her lawyer intentionally inflicted emotional distress and publicized the private information of Asher Van.
It was immature. It was stupid. It was nasty. But that's not who I am, and that's not me today.
Van, now 19, says he did not force anyone to drink urine, and he says he isn't racist.
We played a prank. First one who went to sleep got pranked.
His lawyer says the viral outlet.
Oh, real quick. Whore. I see you in the chat. Somebody saw the shirt. Whore. 11th Armored Calf. There you go. So like I said before, there's no contention that, hey, these boys having a sleepover, they're having fun. When I was in North Carolina with my cousins, we played the same game. Whoever went to sleep first got well, we fart on each other. But that's it's nasty, right? Yeah. But that's what teenage boys do. Okay. So in this case, it like how would you have determined that it was racial? Like it was, I want to know, right? How did the mother determine that this wasn't just, kind of a thing that nasty young teenage boys do versus a targeted racial attack? How did she discern the difference between these two possibilities? Right? That's what I want to know.
Well, well, just so we're clear what was going on. So there's a victim here who was at this sleepover who drunk urine because of the peer pressure, whatever. Something happened in which the victim's parents, mom, and lawyer did something to the person who allegedly, one of the kids who actually did this to him. And now they gotta pay the perpetrator, the guy who had their child drink urine. They gotta pay him $3.2 million.
Right. But
so we're trying to figure out how this all flipped around.
Yeah, because it's like you would think, okay, hey, this is nasty, hey, this is terrible. But it was because I think they said the lawyer was in on it too, like putting out let's look at it. Let's go because you jump. I'm getting to the heart of this. Yeah. This is nasty. But I want to just let people know where we're at.
Yeah. Victim, sleepover, has to drink whatever. His mom, the victim's mom and lawyer have been sued, and they now have to pay the person who did it.
You would expect the inverse.
Yeah, but so we're trying to figure out now what happened.
Rage will follow the group of boys for the rest of their lives.
Caused significant damage not only to their past, but to their future.
That's why he wants to try to collect the $3.2 million judgment the jury found Mom Summer Smith and her attorney must pay.
Defending my son was what I should have done, and I would defend my son still.
Smith says she plans to appeal the verdict and says there's not much she would have done differently.
I am attempting to move forward, attempting to move past it. My son is doing great.
Smith says she was sad to hear about the backlash Van says he experienced.
I never wanted anyone to threaten anyone at the school or anything. I simply wanted them to be held accountable in the proper way.
Her lawyer, Kim Cole, wasn't available for an interview, but says, quote, "To me, this entire verdict runs afoul of anything decent or just." And she says she never called out Van by name and accused him of trying to rewrite history.
We put on evidence that they knew that the things that they were saying were not true and that they persisted in it because they were raising money off of that narrative.
This is what the jury found them guilty of, which is crazy. Intentional infliction of emotional distress. The jury agreed that the actions of the mom and the lawyer were extreme and outrageous enough to cause the teen emotional suffering. And they also said they found him liable, so make sure liable, of public disclosure of private facts. The verdict indicated that they publicized private information of Van, which involves making public details of someone's private life, like his address, email, that type of stuff.
Yeah, and I've seen stuff
that
like
are not legitimate public, essentially doxing him.
Yeah.
The award was $3.2 million, and the plaintiff lawyers argued the defendants pushed the narrative that they knew was partially untrue. So it was also untrue, and they referenced this GoFundMe. So we'll see the GoFundMe part too.
Oh.
Van's lawyer says he believes the jury was convinced in part by how he says Smith used more than $100,000 in GoFundMe money. The description said it was for counseling and education, which she says some of it was spent on.
What was the other portion used for?
I mean, anything to help him be able to move forward with life.
Okay,
he went through a traumatic experience.
Let me make sure. I'm so confused on who won the money.
Okay, let's recap.
So okay. So let me. Yeah, this story is a little confusing. So you have you have the teens go to a sleepover,
right?
Then you have the victim, right? One of the teens, they play a game. Who falls asleep first is the one that's going to get
drink pee-pee.
Yeah. So the guy falls asleep first. The rest of the teens make him drink pee, right? So now that's the hazing. That's it. Blah 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 blah. So now the mom of the child who drunk pee.
She goes, no.
She goes and she goes crazy. They don't just sue the blah, 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 blah. They go outside of the room. So generally you would sue, like, oh, your son made me drink pee. I'm going to sue you, right? And that's it. She didn't do that. They went above and beyond, doxing
her and the lawyer.
Yeah, her and the lawyer.
Lawyer, yeah.
Alleged, well, not allegedly. That's what they did. That's what they did.
So
They lied
said
for it. They gotta
her,
pay
the
for it.
mother, and the lawyer, because and y'all seen this stuff when something racial happens, it gets put on social media, they put on blast. People in the comment section, oh, I found this, and this. That happened, okay? But the jury goes, well, hold on for a second. We understand that you're trying to sue, but why would you need to do all this? Like, what was this in service of exactly?
Yeah. So the reason why they were allowed to sue, because the things that they were saying was untrue. Like they were able to show that this wasn't about racism because everybody was black except for the one kid. So they showed like a lot of the stuff they were saying to raise money about this white kid was not true. So the white kid said, I'm going to sue mom and the attorney because they're not only putting out false information and a false narrative, but because I'm a minor,
Yep.
I'm more protected than the law. The law protects minors. You can't just dox me because I'm a minor. You can't just say all this stuff. That's why, like rape shield laws, for instance. So they essentially said, because you've doxed me and I got all these threats, and because you disclose my personal facts, you now owe me money. And that money turned out that the jury found out that money turned out to be $3.2 million. Whoa. So the victim's parents and lawyer has to pay the perpetrator $3.2 million.
Right. But and so a part of this determination had to do with the GoFundMe for $125,000.
Yes, that they were, because they were trying to raise money to lie. Now this was this defamation of character? This was intentional infliction of emotional distress.
Yeah.
And that was caused by the public disclosure of private facts. The doxing of the kid. Doxing the kid, he got all these people calling, coming to his house and all that stuff. That caused him emotional infliction of emotional distress. Oh, I'm so scared that people are threatening to kill me. Now you got to pay for that.
Yeah.
That's what this was. So it has elements of defamation because a lot of stuff wasn't true.
Right.
But essentially the lawyer went kind of out of pocket.
Yeah. People get so hyped up with doing this. I think because so many people got away with this for so many years in the recent past that they just figured, you know what, I'll just do it anyway because everyone else is doing it. But now folks are seeing that there's actual consequence for conducting themselves this way. They didn't have to, by the way. They did not. This is not for the actual like event.
They won. They got it on video.
There's no contention.
There's no loss, right?
But that wasn't enough. So they had to add in insult to injury. Hey, let's put this minor's information out there. Let's go ahead and put him in a position and his family in a position and omit certain things to characterize them in a way that we feel fits into our particular, let's say, personal philosophy, right?
Yeah, but it's kind of crazy because they gotta win. She's won. She's won. It's like, here, the video, everything.
But
You've won.
It's not enough.
But so why go now? And you raise $100,000 on GoFundMe, but now you're kind of in this spot where it's like, you know,
it's not. Look, hey, take the win, walk away.
These people wanted to support him, and so I used it to help him with anything he needed.
Van says he doesn't expect to get the millions and says even though he prevailed in court, this incident has defined his life.
There was no winners in the end.
In Dallas, I'm Cole Sullivan.
Now, I actually because I have the legal breakdown here. So first, reporters saying, first, the teens, just so we understand, the teens were actually charged with assault. So the person who won, there was some consequences for them because this was an assault.
So somebody drink PP is assault?
It's assault. Yeah, the bullying is assault. So here is that video here for the assault. Oops.
Charged as juveniles.
To find out that it's like the equivalent of a ticket with just a little fine, that says to me what they think about my child.
They chose the absolute lowest level, which is the equivalent process.
This is the victim's mom and her attorney, the ones that now have to pay the $3 million. This is back in the day, right before.
Plano police launched an investigation, and Smith says in a meeting today, she learned 2 of the students will each be facing an assault by contact charge, a Class C misdemeanor charged as juveniles.
To find out that it's like the equivalent of a ticket with just a little fine, that says to me what they think about my child.
They chose the absolute lowest level, which is the equivalent of a ticket. No jail time, no threat of jail time. It's fine.
Smith's attorney, Kim Cole, hoping for at the very least a Class A misdemeanor.
When you handle these types of situations with kid gloves, it's not a deterrent. They have been protecting these kids from day one. And I can't say that I'm surprised.
She says she'll now be filing civil claims against them. Meanwhile, Smith says her son has created an anti-bullying organization that aims to make sure what happened to him doesn't happen to anyone else. In Plano, Aaron Jones, CBS 11 News.
So I think you win, right?
You would say that, but I guess
I think that's a win. I think they literally win the case, right?
But they even said in there it's not enough. It's not. It needs to be more. This is what they think of myself. I mean, there is legal precedent. You know, I'm not sure how many people go into jail for making somebody drink pee, but I guess there's some. Is there a court case, a landmark court case we need to look at for that? I don't know.
No. Well, it's obvious. I think it's obviously assault, but I think it's now. Like, so now, how do you get from there where it's like, oh, we're going to charge them with these misdemeanors, which are crimes, essentially a parking ticket.
Right.
How do we get to, so let me see. Let's see what the lawyer, so here's some things that the lawyer supposedly said. Attorney representative said also named in the lawsuit. All right, so here is the crux of the lawsuit.
Right. This is the mom's lawyer.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Now,
let me see. Oh no, this is the one we just.
This is the
watched.
other. Okay, yeah. So we just saw a little bit. Nate's getting the other video there. So the person with the earrings and the purple, that was the mom's lawyer, and she was essentially saying, "Hey, look, this is a travesty. These kids, and you know who she's talking about. They've been protected, in her words, since day one." And so the mom's lawyer is looking for at least a jail time or something. So akin to, hey. This, I would say, what's a better scenario? If these kids, if somebody had like been beaten, right? Hey, yeah. they're like beating each other, like somebody physically harmed, that would probably qualify for an upgraded charge. But this, hey, look, we're playing this game. And first person to fall asleep has to drink PP.
Yeah. So now we're going to see exactly how these mom went from an obvious win. This is an obvious win to losing this particular case. Cool.
A stunning vindication in a big case that dominated media coverage a few years ago. Remember this? In 2021, a 13-year-old black student, Samarian Humphrey, claimed his white friend, Asher Van, shot him with BB guns and forced him to drink urine at a sleepover. Now, the story made a lot of headlines, being called race-based bullying. A Black Lives Matter group, of course, got involved. As police and school officials investigated the case, though, it began to unravel. The full story wasn't adding up. Van was never formally charged, and instead he brought a civil suit against Humphrey's mother, Summer Smith. Now, 5 years later, a jury has awarded Van $3.2 million in damages, finding Smith inflicted emotional distress and invaded his privacy. Asher Van, who is now in college, his father, Aaron, and their attorney, Justin Nichols, join me now. Thank you all for being with me here today. Asher, I'm sure this has been a long 5 years. How do you feel today?
I feel different. I don't feel so scared and so little as I did back then. I feel like I'm getting heard from. I feel like people will understand me and people will listen to me and help me climb up this uphill battle.
Now, usually you can't win if somebody calls you racist. But this guy, he got $3.2 million.
Getting paid for it now. The tables have turned, darkness.
Let's get to the legal part.
Described, which is that Samarian did drink after you guys were accurately been out for quite a while, shows, I believe, and I'm trying to characterize this accurately, exactly what you described, which is that Samarian did drink after you guys woke him up, what was some concoction of apple juice, some urine, but he didn't really drink it. He kind of put it up to his mouth. But the point is he moved on. He laughed. And in fact, for 2 weeks, you guys kind of all just went about your business the same way you went into it. As friends?
Yes, sir. As friends.
All right. Aaron, what happened after that? Then how did it change?
About 2 weeks after that, I was on a business meeting. I got a call from my son, and apparently, not Asher, but one of the other friends and Samarian had gotten into an argument playing video games online, and one of them decided to go ahead and take the video that was posted, unbeknownst to Asher even existing, and send it to a friend who sent it to a friend, and then it turned into an absolute social media nightmare.
So it starts spreading around the high school.
Yes.
At some point, it gets into the hands of Samarian's mother.
Right, correct. And Samarian's mother didn't reach out. She didn't talk to us. She immediately went to the school and called for action, wanted Asher to be expelled.
So the kid, Samarian, so the victim, was on Xbox Live, right? And the kids in his, little group were trying to, hey, look, how can you say this, this, and this? You were over here drinking pee-pee. And so they're trying to embarrass him. And then through that exchange, because the kid didn't go to his mom. That's the one thing I noticed about that, because if it's just terrible, oh my God, it's awful. He or mom, they're making me drink pee-pee. That didn't happen.
It kind of, it happened kind of accidentally.
Yeah,
she didn't know.
She didn't even know she didn't know it happened. And that's significant, really. To me, that's really significant.
But to be honest with you, though, all right. So for me, it's not. And the reason why it's not is if 2 weeks or a month later, I find my daughter was drunk peeing this particular thing she didn't tell me, I would be the same thing. I'd be going to the school. What the hell's going on? Why is she drinking pee? I would find when I find out, I'm still outraged. So why are you saying it's insignificant? Because you're saying it's not as significant because of the way it was found.
Because of the way that it was found out. So to me, because like I said, I would do stuff like this with my cousins. Okay. And that I'm biased in the matter. I was a willing participant in these type of games. And so my mother eventually found out, doing all that type of stuff. But the point that my mother made, if you did not want to do this, you know how to contact me, you know how to tell them that you're not going to be a party to that. But the second you are complicit in this, because everybody else had, even Asher here, if he fell asleep, he'd be the one drinking pee. So because you were the one that lost the bet, you can't then claim that you're, some sort of victim when everybody's on a level playing field and everyone knows the rules. And so that's I guess where I say, but not that I would be upset. I was like, it's nasty, but some personal accountability has to be had. And I think that's the one thing that tends to be missing nowadays is any form of personal accountability. You can be a victim of something 100%. But your decisions in the matter that led up to it also play a role.
Yeah, definitely. No, I did, and this is where I think sometimes when you you can't agree to do anything you want, right? It has to be limited. Like I can't agree that you can stab me. I can't agree that you can shoot me, right? I can't. Even though we agree to these things, some things that you just can't.
There's
agree
still
to.
a line in the sand.
And I think this is where it comes to. Where the line in the sand is, you can't agree to force me to drink pee. Even though we agree to it,
that's still
it doesn't mean that it's okay.
Right.
And I think as a mom, I think the mom did everything appropriate up until
the point that
she became crazy on the other kid.
Because she created a narrative based on that clip and what she knew.
What I specifically is saying is that I don't think anything the mom did up to this point is unreasonable.
Okay,
you just find out,
right?
You're mad as hell. You go to the school, that's all okay. But I think the things that she did after that point, I think that's where you get upset.
And I'll agree with you on that. Absolutely, yeah. So people do this, whoa. Yeah. But I agree. If my mother found out about that, she and I would have a big conversation, and she would be upset, and I'd understand that. But I think I want to know this. At what point was the plan hatched to further spread this video around, from the parents? Because the kids were already doing it, right? The kids were already passing around themselves. But for the lawyer and the mother passing it around and then creating a GoFundMe for $120,000 for education purposes.
And let's not forget too, we also have the so we have the GoFundMe, but also we have the privacy part. Because now we haven't heard about how the privacy part, because that's essentially what they got caught with.
Yeah.
Right. He's a minor and you're putting out his information.
Right.
And that's essentially how they got slammed, because they're putting out the name, address, and everything of minors. But let's see how we got there. Because that's the crux of the case.
Yeah.
That's the crux of the case.
I agree. Yes.
For what took place, and it all started unraveling very, very quickly after that.
What did it feel like at the time? It's really a question for both of you, but I have to imagine as a father, this media circus unfolds around you. Protesters, hundreds, I believe, march to your house. Samarian and his mother show up on Good Morning America, CNN, everywhere else, media tour. Black Lives Matter's involved. What did it feel like at the time?
Hundreds of protesters show up to a minor's house.
It's not intimidation at all.
So that's where you start getting that intentional infliction. How they know where to go? Oh, did the lawyer post it? That now we're starting to get to that intentional infliction of emotional distress.
Everything's happening all at once. You don't know what to do. You go into immediate protection mode and protecting your family. I wanted to get our story up, but I knew that there was a way to do that in an appropriate manner that wasn't trial by social media.
And ultimately, that does land over here with Justin and the case to, in part, rehabilitate or recover Asher's reputation. It ultimately ends up in a case for intentional infliction of emotional distress and invasion of privacy. Just, I believe it is last fall, you get awarded, the case took place last fall. The award is very recent, $3.2 million.
That's right.
Tell me, and I've seen what the jury came back and said. I've seen the jury's decisions. Tell me what this meant in trial, what you guys argued, what was actually done to Asher.
Sure. Unlike the opportunity that we weren't given 5 years ago, this was an opportunity to go step by step with the jury through the process of what really happened, what the investigation shows, the actual facts, and then how those facts were spun for publicity and profit by Ms. Smith and her attorney.
There it is.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah.
So this is how you take an absolute win, because this is an absolute win for them, right? So it's recorded video.
But that's the thing. Asher doesn't actually contest what happened.
Yeah,
he doesn't.
They're saying this happened.
His dad doesn't contest it. The lawyer doesn't contest it. Everybody agrees, right?
Yeah.
But what he relied on here now, then this is because folks are going to be upset about this. What the lawyer used was the excessive actions by the mother and the lawyer. They didn't have to do any of that stuff.
All that shit.
They chose to take advantage of the situation and utilize
some extra cash on the side,
for education purposes in a new car. I don't know. She didn't actually say what she even used the part of the money for. She said, part of it was used for it. I guess. Yeah.
All at the expense of these young boys.
And what was the racial makeup of the jury that awarded Asher $3.2 million?
I believe 5 members were African American. There were 3 Asian members, 2 Latino members, and I believe the rest were Caucasian.
So hold on. So matter of fact, the most, because 12 people on the jury.
That's what I'm about to ask you.
Most people on the jury
were peoples of color.
Were people of color. 3 Asian, Hispanic, and the minority happened to be white.
So the vast majority of people on the
black
jury,
people who gave
because we know a scam when we see one. Like, we understand. It's just like, no, you wrong.
So you got a mostly black and minority jury giving this white boy
$3.2 million
after making a black kid drink pee. This is crazy. No, but even if I told you this story, you wouldn't believe it. You wouldn't believe it. You're like, come on.
You know what this reminds me of? You remember that story that happened here in Texas, up in Humble, a few years ago? The guy found his wife cheating on him, and he shot her in the driveway.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
The jury. So that guy's not. Y'all can look this up. That guy is not in prison right now because crime of passion.
No, you get prison for that.
They get prison.
Yeah. So a crime of passion. Well, so what a crime of passion is?
Maybe I'm tripping.
Yeah. So what happens in a crime of passion is that it lowers the liability. So from like second-degree murder, we get life in prison to like 10 years.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm sorry. Yeah. It got reduced because people were saying it was premeditated. Initially, but no, they downgraded to crime of passion. I stand corrected. It was crime of passion. It got downgraded, and so he's not doing life. But I remember about the jury was I think it was 90% female.
Yeah.
I want to say that was the most interesting thing about it. The vast majority were female. That's what this reminds me of.
Let me see. Did they drink pee or did he do it willingly? He did it willingly because they had like this bet that was happening.
Yeah.
So that's kind of
they didn't force. So if they would throw, I could see the argument. Yeah, you're just throwing pee on them. But he agreed. And that's why I made the comparison to the stupid stuff I used to do with my cousins. All of us would have a sleepover. All of us were complicit in playing little stupid teenage boy games, right? And so I think that does play a role, but it's still wrong. Either way, it's still, you shouldn't be doing that, you know?
And they found that the way this story was portrayed, the way it was spun by Ms. Smith and her attorney, was an intentional infliction of emotional distress to Asher.
That's right. They found, in order to find intentional infliction, they had to find that Summer Smith and Kim Cole took facts that were not true and cast in false light and did it for a reason in order to cause him severe emotional distress.
Here,
That's what they had to
I would
find.
love to read this to you. This is Summer Smith's statement to us here at Fox News. She says, the legal claims in this matter are for intentional infliction of emotional distress and invasion of privacy. It's important to note that this does not involve allegations of defamation or slander. Additionally, it's just as important to note that this decision will be appealed. I remain steadfast in my commitment to seeking justice for my son and will continue to fight vigorously on his behalf. What do you say, Justin?
Well, I want to be very clear. Defamation was part of it. It was not a claim because by the time we got to the lawsuit, Texas has a very short statute of limitations. So that claim could not be asserted. But we absolutely asserted that Kim Cole and Summer Smith had put falsities about Asher and other boys out into the public. And, you know, this is emblematic of somebody who continues to refuse to accept responsibility. Throughout the case, throughout their depositions, and even on the stand, they continued to push this false narrative of racism that they know did not exist, that was untrue, and they continue to double down instead of finally taking some responsibility for hurting so many lives.
So the issue was that all these kids are friends.
Yeah.
They're probably on the football team together. They all live. So, and the parents know this is not racism for sure.
Yeah, they're aware. Because why would you, if you thought that if these people had an inkling, why would you let your son
go to a sleepover
with them, right? Like that's especially in this day and age.
And then 3 weeks later, it happens, you know, whatever happens, and 3 weeks later you come. So the issue here is that they manufactured racism against this kid where no racism existed so they can get more sympathy from the public. BLM, get the $100,000.
Yeah.
And then when they prove that this wasn't racism because they're all friends and, you know, why would a racist have you over at his house, sleep at his house with all these other black people? Then they doubled down when they got the trial.
Yeah.
And that's when the jury was like, a jury with black people. Remember, there's black
and
people on the jury.
Latinos and Asians.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, you have I think, and that's, you know what? That's probably why the lawyer did that, because she saw the composition. Because they can, beforehand, what is that called when they can talk about? Huh?
Voir dire, where they interview the jury.
Yeah, okay. So I think,
well, it's voir dire or dire in Texas, but it's voir dire.
The lawyers have ability to kind of change the composition, influence the composition. So yeah. I'm thinking that the lawyer for the mother saw the composition and she thought it was in her favor. And so they said, you know what, we're just going to double down on this
racism.
And then, you know what, people are just, the tribalism is going to kick in and then boom, we're going to win. I think that's what she was banking on.
Yes, well, it didn't work. It didn't work. Now she owes $3.2 million. And I'm assuming her lawsuit's still going on because I would be suing those people who did this to my son. So, you know, but it's a weird little flip on this because
that's your last question to you.
I wouldn't expect this at all. I'd be like,
there's a famous saying, it's much older than you, and I don't expect you to know it, but it was from a New York politician some decades ago. And when it came to one of these cases, he said, now, where do I go to get my reputation back? Today, you feel like you've been heard. Do you feel vindicated? Do you feel like your reputation has been restored? How do you feel about?
Now, when they said reputation, just so we understand that, remember, he was labeled a racist, doxxed, marches at his house, BLM out there. And that's why the mom and lawyer have to pay them $3.2 million because that was a lie.
Yeah.
And most of the time, you can call somebody racist and not have any issues. But this lawyer did tremendous work.
She put in effort for this.
I'm talking about this guy.
Yeah.
This guy.
Because
he did tremendous work.
He exploited that because he said, you know what, this is nonsense, but how do we fight back? Because I don't think years ago this would have worked as well. But I think he was successful. This lawyer here, I think he was successful because the mom and the lawyer went the extra mile.
Yeah,
I think the GoFundMe was one of the main things people looked at.
The reason why are you doing this?
They said because it's like you can say, oh, you know, she feels slighted, she feels this and that. Okay, fine. Yeah, you could kind of empathize, but when it's directly tied to a monetary benefit, you can't argue that. Well, I feel this way, but those fields translate to dollars. And she got most of the $125,000, by the way. That's not that you can see that on the GoFundMe.
She got to give it to this guy.
Yeah. Now guess who get that money now?
Give us. I want the GoFundMe money.
See, though, ask to use that to go to HBCU. You know, that's the solution, right? But that's the crazy part. I think people they're so used to believing that real life is Reddit, right? That they forget that no, this is reality.
No, but let's be honest though. The stupid lawyer got to know you can't dox children. You got to know that.
That's what I
mean. If you in the chat who are not lawyers don't know that you can't just dox children online, right? That's generally a crime in most places, right? Give me a 1 in the chat if you know you can't legally just dox minors online, right? That's something I think people generally know, right? That's something you would, it's adults. That's it. There's no law against it, but children, because it's like doxing a rape victim or something like that. You can't. That's something that you can get civilly. You can get hit civilly for that, right? It's like doxing a rape victim. Actually, it's like that's a civil. Boom, you're done.
Now that I think about it, could this impact her standing within lawyerdom? Like, could she be brought disbarred?
Hell yeah. Well,
potentially,
her insurance is going to get hit, and we're talking about whether it's ethics now, but her insurance is definitely taking a hit.
Really?
Her malpractice insurance is going to go off the charts. Yes. Like, what are you doing here? This is crazy.
So
that's malpractice insurance. That's a malpractice hit. Yeah.
So how would so explain to me. So who would have to put eyes on this in order for the insurance for malpractice to find out?
No, the insurance is going to kick in because she was representing this woman at the time when she did all this, right? So if now you got a judgment against me because of what my lawyer did, then you've committed malpractice.
Okay, so
I'm going after your insurance.
Okay.
So the mom might not have to worry too much because she's going to hit the insurance, but the lawyers might have to worry because she might be killed out. Way off topic. Savannah's teacher death, blame ICE or illegal.
Oh, I briefly heard about that. I think they were chasing somebody. I think ICE was chasing. So feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. I think ICE was chasing somebody, and then someone ended up dying. I think a teacher ended up dying because of that. But I don't know too much about that.
Yeah, we have to look that one up before we get back to that one. So yeah, we'll look that one up and bring that one next week.
Actually, I might have to contact my one of my contacts within the 3-letter agency for that.
Now, it's funny because doing this show on Wednesdays, we always want to think about we like to cover things that are not in the news. Like the news is not talking about it. We found something that was very interesting. We found how many of you, if we ask you guys, how do you think the overall crime rate in the United States? You guys think it's up? You guys think it's down? What would you guys think the crime rate is? And it's fascinating because under Biden, it was kind of and under Trump, the first time, went up because of COVID. But at this moment in time right now, what do you think the crime rate is?
You had to guess.
If you had to guess.
Up, down, didn't change. What do you think?
Well, before we so we don't have to get into that. Here it is. We're gonna put it right on screen now.
I'm gonna bury lead for y'all real quick.
So here it is. Murder rate hits the lowest level since 1900.
Wow.
It is not just down. It's like falling off a cliff. It's the lowest. 2005 was the lowest homicide rate. And we're not talking about homicides. We're talking about almost all crime. Well, they say universally, virtually all crime. Here that goes. Plummets across all major U.S. cities. Cities with the biggest drop: Florida, Denver. Baltimore's on this list, down 31%. Washington, D.C., remember Washington, D.C. had to be down 32%. Ooh. Why is no one talking about crime falling off a cliff like this?
Because New Orleans is not on there.
Maybe. I don't know. It's just this is the decline is crazy. Look, homicides 19% across the board.
Wow.
Robberies 20%. Aggravated assaults 10%. It's insane. Florida, because Orlando was a tough city, and so it's down 50% decline. So it's just crazy how crime has just, and no, I don't see anybody talking about how crime is just
Yeah.
Just look at 2024, Biden's last year, 2025, Trump's first year. And this is it. These numbers are incredible.
I'm gonna say it. People are not gonna like it. Trump has deployed different federal organizations, the National Guard, ICE, CBP, and people are less likely to start doing this type of stuff when you have armed, trained folks. And the reason I say that is because those of you who are fans of the TikTok and all that kind of stuff, when Trump deployed folks to Atlanta, there were tons and tons, specifically Black women now, who were saying, you know what? I didn't agree with this, but all of the YNs and all of the less savory folks amongst our race were less likely to be outside, and they actually felt safer. Okay, this is not me. I watched quite a few. My wife was a big TikTok fan, and it came across, and I'm just like, there's a lot of this. I think even Anton Daniels covered this, and a whole bunch. There is a lot. So go back and y'all can find articles and videos about this. And so that says something. When you have an armed presence there, people are less likely to act up because they can talk big on the internet, right? But you see what happens when y'all fool around with some of these three-letter agencies, you're going to get got real quick. So I think that in the mind of a lot of people trying to change the calculus just a bit.
Yeah, well, these numbers are, again, this is per capita, obviously, but it is incredible. And I just don't understand. Like, don't get me wrong. I understand, the politics of it all.
Mhm.
Trump bad, whatever he does bad. I get it. But I just think some numbers got to matter for something.
Yeah.
And we always talk, especially on this channel, we always talk about crime, how it goes up, it goes down, and, Democrats.
But this is significant. But this is since 19, because maybe a drop, but since 1900?
Well, think about this. In the 1900s, then you got the war period, right? So now the crime is up, it's up. Then you got the 1950s, the best time in the United States, right? Right after World War II, 1950s.
Organized crime started kicking up.
Crime is, where, 1950s?
Isn't this where, I'm not a history buff, but I want to say this is kind of where organized crime really started, sort of getting its foothold, if I'm not mistaken. But
it's possible, because I know in the 1950s was the greatest, they called it the Great Generation. You come out of World War II, America's number one. That's why you see all this low. Then you have the 70s spike because you start getting the drug. This is the 90s with the drugs and all that crack cocaine epidemic. I think this is what you see here. This spike, crack cocaine. Then you got the drop from the .coms. So now these are the new levels. This is when they start passing the in about 2000, the Biden bills in the 1990s.
Super Predator.
Yeah, the Super Predator bill. That's where you see that big decline. And then going forward, you have the COVID spike in 2020. And now it's lower than any time in U.S. history back to 1900. I think you got to just 1930s.
1930s, not 50s. Thank you.
Prohibition, 1930s. So yeah, this is crazy. My thoughts. The OG and the
dope boys don't want
boys.
National Guard in their cities, so they got work. Yeah, but that's exactly what I was saying. That's exactly what I was saying. You can intimidate regular civilians, but how many of them are going to go up against armed, trained folks? That's not going to end well.
Well, I do want to ask, how many people in the chat actually knew this was the case? That the homicide rate and crime was the lowest it's been in essentially a generation. I think I was kind of shocked to see this. I was like, wow, no one's talking about this. Why isn't anyone talking about this? This is great news, but I think it helps the wrong guys. So.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm curious as to what the Ground News would say. I wonder what Ground News would show about this.
Oh, the whole thing. Well, since they're not sponsoring this video,
we're not to forget belay that. Strike it from the record.
So now it's funny because now going from this to what's going on in New York, because for those of you who don't know, we recently did a video about the Mandami from New York, the New York mayor.
Yeah, that's your backyard.
Yeah, that's what's happening. But now the New York is having problems, like real big problems. Number one, remember the ice storm?
The one we had a few weeks ago.
Yeah. So it was the whole thing happened where they were saying, okay, we got sub-zero temperatures coming, and we got homeless people living in the streets.
Yep, that's
negative degree temperature, right? cold enough to kill you if you're outside, right? 10 minutes,
frostbite dead.
Yes, right. So what they used to do, so we got to talk about what they used to do before they did now. So what they used to do, big storm coming,
right?
Killer storm. Let's get the homeless off the streets.
So because I grew up in the South, I have no idea. I lived up in Maryland for a few years. I have no idea. So I always wondered about this, right? There's not a whole lot of homeless people where I was in Maryland, so I didn't know. But anytime I went to New York, there's homeless people. Every time I went to visit you, there's homeless people in every corner. So do y'all have like a place set up?
So what they do is that generally the homeless people don't want to go to the shelters. So what they do is they'll essentially force them into the shelters for at least that day to say, okay, we got a big storm going on. We're going to force you into the shelters. You stay in there for a night, and then you go and do whatever you're going to do.
So the police just say, hey, y'all get up. Y'all got to go.
They get up and remove and break down their stuff. And
Okay.
So throw away all the garbage stuff. They force them in there, at least for that short period of time.
Okay.
The new mayor comes in. He says he's pro-homeless. He's not doing that no more. He's going to leave them in the streets, right? He's going to leave them there. They have the right to be on a public street. They're going to end in a park. They're going to leave them there.
Okay.
So what do you think happened? 19 people froze to death, right? 19 people froze to death in the storm. Now, people will say, well, hey, there's 8.5 million people. 19 people froze to death in the storm. But on average, New York, for like the past 20 years, had at most 1 to 2 people die in a storm.
In the whole city?
In the whole city. Now you got 19. Now you got 19.
Mondami said, look, we're going to let y'all take your lives in your own hands, and we're going to let you be the boss here.
19. So obviously it's time to backtrack, right? It's time to backtrack. So Mandami now, after all these deaths, Mandami brings back homeless encampment sweep. So he's sweeping them up again, turning the campaign promise after backlash of cold weather. So the reality of the situation is reality.
So now I guess what I'm confused, so who's against this? I guess that's what I'm confused about. What if you say
thank you so much.
Go, what do you say?
This is Nathan Lawyer and Barry Sheckor, super amazing American Lawyer. Thank you so much.
So why would people be against making these homeless people go somewhere that's going to care for them for at least a day?
Temporarily. Well, because what they were doing with the homeless sweeps is that they were moving the homeless. So let's look at it. I'll show you some of the homeless sweeps here.
Okay.
So here, like these are what they were doing. They would, like, the homeless essentially go into a place, here's the towel, and make like a little home. So what they would do is you take the homeless people here, but you can't leave this stuff there. So they would move all this stuff. They would clear the homeless encampment.
Oh, they just throw all this stuff away.
Well, some of the stuff you could take. So what the way the plan New York City did it before, they come the day before and say, hey, listen, storm is coming. You got to get up out of here. So we'll be back tomorrow about this same time. We'll give you 24 hours to figure it out.
Okay.
But whatever's left here, we're going to throw away.
So they can take what they can.
So they can take what take what you're going to carry, or we can take some of the stuff. You can't take everything, obviously.
Right.
But
council,
you got 24 hours to figure it out.
But the council helped them carry some of this stuff.
Yeah, and DHS, they'll help them, and you've seen videos. There's videos of them breaking it down, but they'll help people take their stuff or whatever.
Okay.
So now you get 24 hours, whatever you can't do. Then cops take you to the shelter or whatever, and then move all your stuff. You throw it away or whatever.
So what's the problem?
The problem is that Mandami came and said he didn't like that. He didn't like the way that happened. So he made a campaign promise to stop that.
Cool.
So here it is. Mayor Zoran Mamdani is bringing back homeless encampment suites, reversing course on another campaign promise where he promised not to do this anymore. Backlash after not getting people off the streets during a deadly cold snap, the pollsters learned. Is it Hisner?
Hisner
is expected to restart the practice by used by each of his predecessors, even the one he loves. He loves De Blasio. He said De Blasio is the best mayor ever, and ramped up during the Adams administration as soon as Wednesday. So they're starting today. They're starting today.
So complete 180.
Yes. The city's Department of Homeless Services, which was left in a lurch with zero guidance since Mandami's order came down to halt the sweeps last month, will again take the lead, issuing notices to people living on the street, sources said. So they're going to be issuing notices. get off the streets, get off the streets. The homeless outreach workers will then return repeatedly over the next week and try to get the homeless connected with services before tearing down their makeshift living arrangements, the sources that. So he's doing the same thing that they did before.
Okay, they're gonna give him a little bit more time.
Maybe give him a little bit more time because Mayor
thing-
Adams is 24 hours. He's like, we'll give him at least
be a whole week. Okay, so I guess I'm trying to figure out who was against this.
He was.
That so, but you know, these guys pick up positions because of their constituency wants, you know, this, that, but he came up with this by himself.
Yeah. He decided that that he didn't want the homeless to, quote, suffer under the regime.
Under the yoke of oppression of the New York City government.
Well, it's the warmth of collectivism. It's the warmth of collectivism. Hold on. I can find a video. Homeless.
It's okay. Let me. We're going to help take care of the homeless so they don't freeze. No, that's a bad idea. Let's not do that. They'll be okay.
Here it is. So this is local news covering, because we like local news. Local news is probably the best news.
It is the dead of winter. Another snowstorm is coming, and homeless encampments are still a critical problem in Mayor Mamdani's New York. So how is the mayor going to deal with it? Political reporter Marcia Kramer took her questions to Mamdani in this story that you will see here only on CBS News New York.
They are an eyesore. CBS News New York discovering homeless encampments, 2 on the Upper West Side, 2 in Hell's Kitchen, with many wondering how the new mayor will deal with the twin problems of finding a humane solution and optics that make it look like the city is out of control.
Now, I want to make it very clear. This is before the 19 deaths. This is not after, this is before. So this is what's going on right before the 19.
So they're just sort of setting up
this
is the scenario. Okay.
This is what this is. Remember, so people were calling like, yo, we might have a problem here. You got to rethink this. So, but listen to it.
This man, afraid to show his face, says he's called 311 repeatedly about the 2 encampments on West 45th Street.
They take the call like they're supposed to, but nothing's really happening.
How do you feel about the fact that nothing's happening?
Well, I don't feel good about it because I've been in this neighborhood for 3 decades, and it's gone back to the old school ways of crime and everything else.
Manhattan Councilwoman Gail Brewer telling me she's been trying for weeks to convince Mayor Mamdani's office to find supportive housing for people living among boxes of their possessions in 2 locations on Broadway between 75th and 76th Streets.
I have multiple emails and people have called 311 over and over again, and it is frustrating. Time to do something.
Mr. Mayor, I wondered if you could indulge me for a second. So I took the problem to the mayor himself, showing him video of people camped on the street in such frigid weather. What is your office going to do about it? And is it acceptable, given the fact that it's 21 degrees, for these people to be there on the street, on the Upper West Side, and getting no help?
All right.
So she brought it directly to him.
Hey, listen, we got people on the street. It's cold.
Right.
They're going to be in trouble. What are you going to do? Here's his answer.
It is not acceptable for a New Yorker to have to find shelter outside, whether on the Upper West Side or anywhere in this city. New Yorkers should be able to find a place to call their home. And what I have said consistently, first as a candidate, now as the mayor, is that outcomes are how we judge ourselves.
Mamdani said he would not follow former Mayor Adams' approach of removing the encampments. He wants to take a softer approach, convincing them to come in from the cold. I spoke to a man living on the street on the Upper West Side, and I asked him, would you go into supportive housing? Would you, and he said, sure, I would go into supportive housing if somebody would offer it to me.
That's why at the heart of this has to be the connection with services that they want, that they will use, that they will actually utilize.
So were you satisfied with the mayor's answer?
I think it put him on notice.
But now the mayor said, we're not doing it. We're going to let them live. We're going to let them.
So they have the option. They, hey, it's available. Y'all can get up. And so so I know in Louisiana, we don't.
And he has to come up with an answer.
All evacuate when there's a hurricane. And for some of us, that's going to prove deadly. We have hurricane parties. If you don't know what that is, don't bother looking up. It's silly. But that people don't always make the best decisions for themselves, right? And so I think there is a certain point where, you're going to have, because I know there are people who choose to live on the street. That's how they want to live.
Yes.
Great. But at what point do we say, look, your autonomy is great, but we're going to override it temporarily to help save your life, even though you're being stupid? I think that's the question here. I could kind of see what he was getting at, but I think he should have really thought about this beforehand.
Yeah, it's well, here is the aftermath of the people dying. So now this is him confirming 16 people died.
He cleared 44,006
outcomes, yeah. So because he talked about outcomes. So here he is confirming the people who have died.
646 crosswalks, 16,532 bus stops, and 9,700 and bear down on our. And we could very well be in the middle of the longest period of consecutive sub 32 degree weather in our city's entire history. Without temperatures rising above freezing, snow has hardened into blocks of ice. But the greatest danger posed by this sustained cold is to vulnerable New Yorkers who remain exposed to the elements. As of this morning, 16 of our fellow New Yorkers have passed away outside during this brutal stretch of cold.
Really?
In 13 of these cases, preliminary findings indicate that hypothermia played a role.
So
you mean if people stay outside when it's cold, they freeze to death?
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Really?
That's pretty much
When
it.
they start doing that?
In the middle of a snowstorm with sub-zero temperatures, yeah.
Really?
People die.
Huh.
So Mendami, so obviously it is a way of the sorry, we read this already. I'm about to get this other super chat. But yeah, it's insane. Love the t-shirt, by the way. Glad to have you.
In the DD214 alumni. So everybody, so those of you who don't get the shirt, my mother-in-law got me this shirt. My mother-in-law and my father-in-law, both veterans. So they have very similar shirts. So if you served, you have a form called DD214 that shows that you served and all that. So if you have it, you're part of the alumni, right? For that. That's the joke. But thank you.
One more thing, then I'll be quiet. Nate, thank God you're recovering well. Don't ever scare me like that again. I won't. That's referring to my brain surgery, people. So at the end of the day, it's the warmth of collectivism here. 16 people are dead. But again, I will, you got to give the devil its due when they do the right thing. And I think the right thing in this case was to bring back these, because, talking that crap, it's just.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's just, I think that's what it comes down. If it ain't broke, do not fix it. Y'all been saving lives doing this. Might cost taxpayer a little bit of money, but you know what? Hey, that's fine. At least they get to live and live out the rest of their, life the way, whatever, on the street. But, at least they get to live,
At least you get to live. That's
to
the
survive.
issue, right? Yeah, at least you get to live. And the problem is that he's killing them with kindness, literally killing them with kindness. But the last thing we wanted to go over was some of the polls. Now, again, because we like to try to find stuff that we don't feel is being covered in the news, there are polls that are good for Republicans and polls that are bad for Republicans.
Right.
So we wanted to say, okay, here is CNN covering both. Right. And the CNN pollster, to be fair, has gotten a really great credibility in presenting polls, because he presents bad polls for Democrats, bad polls for Republicans.
At least a little bit more objective than you would expect.
Yeah.
That's nice.
So we're going to show you the two most recent polls. One is going to be good for the Democrats. One's going to be good for the Republicans, and see how it figures into the midterms. Drag, haven't seen you in a minute. Good to see you, brother. Love you too, Nate. Glad
there's a few people that recognize me. Yeah, I've been taking. Look, for those of you who do recognize me, I've been in the background. I've been around, but I've been spending time with the people that we're talking about here, the people who are very left-leaning, very liberal. I've been spending a lot of time with them in real life and online and learning quite a bit. Nate doesn't have time for that, but I do. And so I'm bringing you a little bit of insight as to what I think and what's been going on. So, oh yeah, I'll be around. Don't worry.
Oh yeah, we do this every Wednesday. Every Wednesday we're doing this. So now let's get to. Do we want to do bad for Trump? All right, we'll do bad for Trump first, and then we'll do good for Trump and the Republicans second. So this one is the numbers. Now, obviously, Epstein is dragging everything down. Epstein. Trump's got some Epstein issues. I don't know what's going on with Epstein, but I don't trust any of them. But here we go. Here's Trump. Here's the Epstein.
This is not going away here.
No, it is not going away. If the Trump administration and Donald Trump in particular believe that they can wish this story away, the American public have a different tune to sing. What are we talking about here? Well, let's take a look at Google searches for Epstein. In fact, in the month of February, it is higher than it's ever been. Up like a rocket, up 900% versus a month ago. And the top name associated with Googling for Epstein, well, it is Donald Trump. So the story isn't not going away. It's actually getting searched more and more and more, becoming more relevant in the minds of the American public.
It's so interesting. This is, more than it was when Congress voted to force the release, and more than it was when they actually released some of them, more than it was when they released more of them. Now it's the most it's ever been.
The most it is.
Now, I do want to say one thing, and I know people are going to be upset. Some people are going to be happy. Some people are going to be upset. But obviously, there's a cover-up.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Is that controversial to say this is a massive pedo ring cover-up?
I think because here's the thing. I've seen people, it doesn't matter what their political stripe, I've seen everyone agree to some degree things are being covered up for certain people. Everybody agrees with that. Yes. Now, the difference is who is being protected and who's not being protected.
The motives.
As far as that goes. That's where a lot of people seem to disagree. And you know what? That's fair, right? There are some things, I think Voidzilla had the video. Yeah. Some things are redacted here, but they're not redacted there. Like it just seems really inconsistent and it's strange. Somebody's being protected for some reason and for good reason. And I think I've said this before. There's tons of people within the Epstein sphere. There's Bill Clinton videos. Yeah. There's pictures. There's Trump videos and pictures. There's Hillary Clinton videos and pictures. There's tons and tons of people in that sphere, and so nobody wants to acknowledge the taint. You know what I mean? The taint of being in that sphere, right? But I think what's going to be hard and I'll down this hill. The people who were complicit with Epstein and the stuff that he was interested in, he did not have to blackmail because birds of a feather, right? There's no need to blackmail people like, I'm not going to say anybody, but y'all know who I'm talking about, other celebrities, okay? The people who Epstein wanted dirt on, more than likely, I think from some of the emails, they were filmed and tricked into, hey, with this hot girl, hey, come enjoy your time, don't worry about it. Oh yeah, by the way, she was 16, right? Yeah. You can't unring that bell, right? So now he got you. So I think
it's a blackmail.
It's a very intentional. We know that he does that, but how many people are going to go, you know what? Yeah, so-and-so, this rich guy, did this, and he was tricked into doing stuff with somebody. How many people are going to go, it's not a big deal. There's not too many people that are willing to see that because it's easier just to say, this person knew, yeah. So nobody wants to really cop to any of this type of stuff. And that's unfortunately the type of society that we're in now. And I think that if somebody tricked, because what is that thing where is that reasonable something when you go into a bar and it serve alcohol and only people 21 and up are supposed to be in there.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, it's a reasonable assumption.
Reasonable assumption. Yeah. So
but in some states they don't care. Let's say, for instance, and you're talking about, it seems like the statutory rape situation.
Yeah.
Because I know in some places, if you're in a place where everybody's supposed to be 21, a bar where they're checking IDs, right? You meet somebody to sleep with them, then that's a defense. Like, hold on, I thought this person was of age because everyone here I know isn't even near 17. They're all 21. Right. So that would be a defense. But some states don't allow that. It's like, well,
it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
right? Even if they trick you or not.
Liability crime.
So, but we know stuff happens, right? And especially with somebody like this who would intentionally, and we know that he intentionally does stuff like that, you can't unring that bell. You can't remove that type of taint. And so I think that's where we are at this point.
Well, I'll say this about the Epstein files piece of it. I think this is a Trump administration made disaster.
Yeah.
They ran on, we'll release the Epstein files, release the Epstein files, release the Epstein files. Then who do you hire? You hire the guy who's been yelling for years, release the Epstein files, and Kash Patel. You hire as his deputy the other guy who's saying, release the Epstein files, which is Dan Bongino. Then you go and hire an AG and have her go out there and say, I've got all the files and releasing everything. Yes, and we're going to put them all out. Then you have all the conservative influencers with the binders full of nothing. This is phase one of many, right? Then the BS starts happening. No more documents. Guess what? Phase one was all phases, all wrapped up in one.
Why y'all still
Then
talking
we
about
got the 1 minute video that's not. Then all of a sudden the 1 minute video appears. Then it's kind of like, well, the whole Epstein thing's a hoax, but really it's not a hoax, but it's a Democrat hoax. No, it's not a Democrat hoax. Then we got no more documents. And then all of a sudden we find 6 million more documents, and we're going to put 3 million documents out. But it's like we got no list of names. Now we got a list of 300 names. It's like, what's going on?
The narrative keeps shifting.
Yeah, what's
Every
going
month,
on?
there's something
And then
new.
I'm going to sit here and pretend like I don't think Trump's involved. Like, at first, I'm like, okay, maybe he got caught up with something. But now it's kind of making me very suspicious that the Trump administration got something to hide.
Oh, absolutely.
Every single thing they said previously, they've essentially lied about. Pam Bondi right now, right? She said, everything was released. Everything, we gave you everything. Then the next day, we found 3 million more documents.
And that's not
a hell of a mistake.
They said that's not even all.
Yeah, that's a hell of a mistake. Just imagine if I said your bank account got no money in it. Then tomorrow I say, oh, guess what? I messed up. It's got $3.5 million in it.
Little oversight. I
Yeah.
have to carry the team.
Yeah. It's either you're incompetent, and let's not forget about the ultimate incompetence, right? The law says you do not expose victims' names, right? And then they have the email that lists, or the lawyer said, here's all the victims' names.
Yep.
They released that email with the unredacted victim. They redacted the lawyer's name, but they don't redact the victim's name.
The very thing you want to protect.
And the thing they weren't supposed to redact was the pedo's names.
It was in the title of the tagline of the email. Hey, by the way, here's a list of stuff you don't want.
And then to make insult to injury, they redact all the pedo's names. It's like, come on, people. Come on. You know, I'm a guy that likes facts and reality. But none of this makes any sense. Either Pam Bondi is dumb, or she's just so incompetent she should be fired and her license should be revoked. Like this is insanity. Now, don't get me wrong. I personally don't believe that Trump was really doing anything with kids. I think he may be compromised in messing with some other chicks because they were best friends and they were millionaire playboys in New York City.
Absolutely.
Of course, you're going to have fun with your friends.
Absolutely.
Of course, you're going to be doing stuff like that, right? You're millionaire playboys in New York City.
It comes with the territory.
Everybody who's in that world is going to understand that. But I think there may be some embarrassing stuff that he doesn't want to let out. Fine. But right now, I am not confident in the administration at all. But let's see how people feel about it.
Ever been, and the previous highs were also very high.
All right, let's talk about what this means for President Trump. How do people view his handling of the whole issue?
Yeah, this is bad political news for President Trump. You know, yesterday we spoke about the fact that Donald Trump's overall approval rating, his net approval rating, was at a record low for term number 2. What is the worst issue for Donald Trump of any of the major issues? Look at this. We got them all up on the screen. Immigration, foreign policy, the economy, trade and tariffs, and then all the way down at the bottom is the Epstein case. Look, he's underwater on immigration, foreign policy, the economy, and tariffs, all between minus 16 and minus 25 points. The Epstein case, though, is on another planet. Look at this. Negative 39 points. He's 39 points underwater. Basically a split between 30% approve and 70% disapprove.
Let me break this down for a second. So the immigration stuff, I get there's been bad press because of the death of Alex and Rebecca and all that. I get that. That makes sense. Hey, there was a little bit of mishandling things. Could have been better. Great. It's from his effort, his surge. So he's ultimately responsible, even though he's not down.
It's more. I think immigration is more of a PR issue.
Yeah, that's mostly, and that's understandable. Foreign policy. Hey, we're going up snatching presidents and bombing people. I
think that shifted people from the peace president because remember he was talking about Nobel Peace Prize,
no more wars and no more. Yeah, and
to be honest with you, what happened in Venezuela? Even though for people who say they don't like it, I still think you can make an argument it was the right thing to do because he was a horrible dictator and now you control the country because he went in there, pulled out the gun, was like, I control, and now they work for us. They're not giving China no more oil. They work for us. So
there's arguments that you can make that specific because they have the heavy oil, the heavy crude that we need. Yeah. So you know what? And I said, hey, look, we need it all. Okay. So I get that. The economy, that's a coin toss. Like that's going to go up and down. Doesn't matter who you like. That's just
stock market's up. But it really depends on how people are feeling, right? How you're
in the moment.
Because don't forget Biden, and I think a lot of people forget Biden. They lied about the economy like crazy. Remember, their jobs numbers for the last year, they found that there was 1 million less jobs.
Yeah.
From Biden's
like
publishing
consistently too, if I'm not mistaken.
It was like so Biden had 1 million fake jobs on the job, and then when Trump and the team got in, like, oh shit, there's 1 million jobs missing. So now the economy wasn't as good, and we all knew it under Biden. Biden was saying the economy's great. People knew it wasn't good, and I think that's what Trump's going through now. You got to I think they have to say reality. Economies, people don't feel it's good, even if it is good. And then you got trade tariffs.
People still really don't like, because I don't think he sold that the best. He probably had a plan, but whatever that plan was, because I think recently he said, oh, well, the money that we made, or revenue we made off of those tariffs, we're going to then like distribute to a whole bunch of different people. I think that was but that's not something that was initially sold. So I don't think people were fully on board with understanding the grand scheme of things. So again, that may be a PR issue. Epstein stuff, completely self-inflicted. 110%.
I don't
he
see
did that to himself.
I don't see how you don't make that argument. Is it possible illegals terrified for going outside or of deportation could have reduced the crime rate dramatically? Love you, Nate, but Bronco won. Oh yeah, Bronco definitely did win. I do think that it could make sense. I'm not sure. Reduce the crime rate.
I think it depends.
I'm not sure.
I think if you look at the breakdown by state, because I think Hawaii was one of the states that had like there's not too many Mexicans in Hawaii, So I think if you were to break it down, I think in certain areas, maybe DC, that's the case, but you would have to really sort of like tease out each and every different individual instance. But I mean, that's absolutely a possibility.
Oh yeah. Let me see. Let me play this.
Epstein case is not the story the Trump administration and Trump in particular and Republicans at large want in the news, because it is a big political loser for him. And these numbers have remained very consistent. No matter which poll you look at, he's about 40 points underwater in the Epstein case, by far his worst issue. And he's not actually.
And to be honest with you, I agree with that assessment. I think when it comes to Epstein, self-inflicted, and he's going to be 40 points underwater. It just doesn't make any sense. But now it's not all bad for the Republicans, because I think going into the midterms, Republicans are looking at a disaster. They're looking at a disaster.
It'll be rough.
All those things. But there is hope. And so here is the other side of that coin.
A whole lot of power. And there's all this talk of a Democratic wave. But the gubernatorial races nationwide should stand as a wake-up call for Democrats, because take a look here. The race raiders, governors post-2026 election, at least tilting to the Republicans. Look at this. A majority, 26. That is at this point the number of governors that are expected, at least tilting towards the Republican Party at this point. Democrats come in at just 20. The rest of the races are toss up. Of course, you sum up to 50. And I will note that the Republicans right now hold a 26 to 24 gubernatorial seat advantage. So at this point, it doesn't look like Republicans on the net and the aggregate are actually going to lose any governorships. In fact, when you add in those toss-ups, they may gain. So this should stand as a major wake-up call to Democrats, because if there's a wave building, it has not, at least at this point, hit the state level when it comes to governorships.
But that makes sense, because Democrats, I think nationally, there's just more people in Democrat cities and states and things of that nature.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about, but then when you're talking about the governorships, that's more local. And when you and most states happen to be red states. If you look at any maps, like most of the middle of the country, and each one of those states, no matter if you got like, was it Wyoming with 500,000 people? You get 2 senators, right? And you get a governor, and that governor's on that list,
Yeah. So I think I want to see sort of how this plays out when it comes to like border states versus sort of like the northeastern states. I want to like to see a map of the breakdown, because I think overall there's an alignment on certain issues. Everybody thinks there needs to be something done about immigration. But how it's done and what positions people take, I think that's the split. Because those of us who are in the South, we understand, hey, look, it's not the best thing to invite tons and tons of people over and just have them do whatever and go wherever. It's irresponsible. But now there is going to be a shift, just like in Mayor Brandon Johnson up in Chicago, his constituency is now turned against him because they're now feeling the pressure that Southern states feel from some of these things. But I think it's one of those FAFO situations. People would support dumb policies because we got to toe the line, we got to, say the thing and hate who we want to hate. But when it's actually at our front door and impacting us directly, we're going to have an about face.
Yeah, and the like the abolish ICE thing is essentially it's defund the police. It's just defund the police.
It's a 2.0
because you need someone to literally enforce immigration.
Yeah,
and
like so what?
What's your replacement going to be?
But I think that's been par for the course. Tons and tons of people, especially folks on the left, for some reason they want to just take away stuff and just eliminate things, but there's no solution. There's never really any solution that's feasible, right? That's being promoted. And it's just like, it feels good to say the thing and hate the people, but some of us have to live in reality with real consequences. And I think that's where the split is, ideologically speaking.
Yes. How does prosecutorial discretion affect the numbers? It doesn't, because these are crimes reported, not crimes prosecuted. If you're talking about prosecutions, that may be different, but these are crimes reported. So there may not be prosecutions for some of these homicides or some of these assaults. So if somebody, they used to happen to us a lot too. Somebody would say that they were beaten up or whatever. We see them and you can't get to catch the person. You don't get a prosecution, but then you have the report of the crime. So that's a good question though. Prosecutorial discretion really occurs on the other end. So before we leave out of here, I wanted to leave you guys with this because I just thought this was funny. This is morbid knowledge. This is from back in the day, and this guy's saying his daughter was missing. But I want you to listen to this for the twist, because there's a twist in this. So check this out. This is before we go.
This man's missing son was found in his basement while he was on live television.
We're getting reports that your son has been found in your basement. Sir?
Now, he had said his son was missing for 12 days. And she just got the call, right? Your son has been found in your own basement. He's supposed to be missing for 12 days. So now let's see what happens.
Mr. Bothell, are you? Yeah, we are getting reports that your son has been found alive in your basement.
What?
Yes, that's what, if you could hand me that wire very quickly. Yeah, we're getting that right now from how could your son be alive in your basement?
I have no idea.
Look at Nancy.
Now, this is just a report that we are hearing out of Detroit that we're trying to confirm. The boy has been found alive in Daddy's basement.
I thought I hit him right. I thought I told him what I had. You're supposed to stay under the stairs, not come out.
Oh my God! Have you seen the electric short videos in Illinois? No, but I'm actually be doing a video on it. So yeah, so that interview, that just believe the interview's over. Yeah, that's great. That's crazy.
Nancy
That's
Grace's
crazy. It was that moment when Charles Bolton was informed on live TV his son, who had been missing for 11 days, sorry, I said 12, had been found in his basement. So yeah. Yeah,
you forget to look in the obvious.
Like, oh my God, he was in the basement for 11 days. Crazy. So, if you don't know, this is the Commentary King. Let me put him on screen. Commentary King. His link should be, but we did it. We forgot to put your link in the thing.
Yeah,
but his link will be in the description. Commentary King. My name is Nathan Lawyer. Hopefully, you'll join us every Wednesday, because we do this every Wednesday at about 12 o'clock Eastern time. And we just go through these interesting stories. And we genuinely try to find stories that other people aren't covering. Like now, next week, we're going to do the biggest comic book
Comics, for those of you who are nerds out there and y'all on YouTube, Comics Explained, Rob.
Yeah,
I've subscribed to him. There's a controversy with him and somebody else who claims that even though he's my skin color, he's not actually a black man because he won't cover certain comic books. So he doesn't play the tribalism game, so he's a problem. So we're going to cover that. And trust me, it's going to be real interesting. For those of you who don't know about it, y'all can look into it. But yeah. So look forward to that next week.
Next week, we also got a couple of special guests coming on. fake PhD investigator. And we're going to have Johnny Walker Black. They're going to be coming on because there's some updates on the Rashard Ritchie situation. Now, for those of you who don't know, Rashard Ritchie, he has been faking it till he makes it. He's got all these fake degrees. We all know that. TYT is trying to keep it quiet. So there's been some new stuff that's come up. So they're going to explain to us what's been going on.
He has another degree.
Probably got another 5 for all I know. Remember, in 1 year, this guy got like 6 degrees, six like major degrees
too.
Major, master, doctorates, all in 1 year. So, either we're doing something. Let me take that as last super chat before we get ahead. It's sad, but we live in a surface level vibe society where people make decisions with no thought and have to feel the consequences of their decisions. Empathy kills in that way.
I would argue that it's not even empathy. Empathy goes both ways, right? These people looking for pity, and that pity then gets translated to social currency. That's all it is. It's all surface level, right? That's all it is. And that's what I learned over the last few years being involved with a lot of these folks. And their bad decisions and the things that they promote are destructive. But you'll see that for a lot of the people who are supporting it, it doesn't impact them. And that's why they feel just so easily or freely able to do that. But don't worry, we'll get into that. Trust me.
And for those who haven't seen 2 new videos, so I got 2 new videos coming out. One about the nurses, the nurses who were going crazy, the fake nurses everywhere. And then we also got the police department who got all their police stuff, their police cars repossessed. We're also going to be doing a follow-up on Dalton soon because obviously she moved to Atlanta.
She's in Atlanta, hot Atlanta now.
She's in Atlanta. I don't know if you know, YouTube went down yesterday, so the views on that video kind of crushed. But they rebounded though. So we got a lot going on. So don't forget, like, share, subscribe. The Commentary Kings link is going to be in the description and is going to be in the title, so you can just click on it and check them out. But with that being said, thanks again for joining us. And we'll see you next week, Wednesday, 12 o'clock Eastern, 11 o'clock Central.
See ya.